So imagine you wake up early, right? It's totally pitch black in your bedroom, and you just reach out for your coffee cup on the nightstand.
Mm-hmm.
Your hand moves in this perfect arc through the dark. It slows down at exactly the right fraction of a second, and your fingers just close right around the handle.
Right, with this incredible, totally unthinking precision.
Exactly. I mean, you didn't calculate that trajectory. You didn't, consciously consult a mental blueprint of the room or solve spatial equations to move your arm. You just reached out.
And that kind of unthinking precision is exactly what philosopher Boris Kriger calls the wisdom of the body, which is the absolute core of his newly published 2026 book, The Wisdom of the Body, Merleau-Ponty and the Philosophy of Ambiguity.
And what is genuinely so original about Krieger's work here, like his big, brilliant contribution, is how he approaches this. He takes the notoriously dense, winding theories of the mid-20th century French thinker Maurice Merleau-Ponty, and he just translates them.
Yeah, completely without jargon, not a single equation in sight.
Right. He grounds this really abstract existential phenomenology into modern interdisciplinary case studies. We're talking everything from advanced prosthetics to laparoscopic surgery, all the way to the neurology behind Zoom fatigue.
It is a phenomenal text.
It really is. And our mission for today's deep dive is to use Krieger's synthesis to just completely dismantle this 300-year-old myth we all carry around, the idea that your mind is just a pilot driving a meat machine. By the end of this, ordinary stuff like walking downstairs or failing to tickle yourself is going to seem like an everyday miracle.
Oh, absolutely. Because Krieger argues that science and philosophy have basically spent centuries looking at human consciousness completely backwards. I mean, we really have to start with the Cartesian split.
Right, René Descartes.
Yeah, Descartes famously divided the human being into two parts. You know, the thinking mind and then the extended mechanical body. And we've just inherited this assumption that the body is like merely a vehicle.
Which is where you hear people talking about uploading consciousness. Right, or, treating the brain like it's just computer hardware. It's the classic ghost in the machine setup.
Exactly.
Descartes basically gave us this model where you are an ethereal observer sitting in a dark theater somewhere behind your eyes, and you're just passively watching a screen that broadcasts whatever sensory data your body's cameras happen to pick up.
Mm-hmm. But Krieger highlights a massive epistemic flaw in this, using physicist Arthur Eddington's concept of the two tables. Have you spent much time with that concept?
Oh, Eddington's two tables. Yeah, that perfectly captures the paradox of modern materialism.
It really does.
Yeah.
So Eddington pointed out that he sits at this solid, brown, lived-in desk to do his writing. But physics tells him his quote-unquote scientific table is actually mostly empty space. Just a swarm of electric charges darting around at colossal speeds. For centuries, the scientific consensus has basically been that the swarming charges are the fundamental reality, while the solid brown table is merely a subjective hallucination, just something constructed by our nervous systems.
Which creates a really fascinating Ouroboros, right? Krieger points out this contradiction, because if the scientific table is the only real truth, we have to ask where the scientific table came from in the first place.
Exactly. Where did it come from?
It came from measurements. And those measurements were taken by living scientists, looking through microscopes with living eyes, recording data on solid brown desks. Science relies entirely on the perceived lived world to even function.
That is the core of Krieger's intervention right there. Science is a magnificent, highly detailed map, but the lived world is the territory.
You can't use the perceived world to discover particle physics and then turn around and declare the perceived world is just a hallucination.
No, you can't. The map is derived from the territory. It doesn't replace it. Merleau-Ponty's insight, which Krieger modernizes so beautifully, is that perception isn't a flawed secondary copy of reality. Perception is our primary opening onto the world. The body doesn't house the mind. Consciousness is incarnate. You are your body.
Wow. Okay, so if we completely discard the idea of the mind as a pilot managing a dashboard of sensory inputs, we have to explain the mechanics of how we actually navigate. Like, how does that hand actually find the coffee cup in the dark?
Right. So Krieger replaces the Cartesian dashboard with this concept of the body schema.
Oh.
And we should definitely distinguish this from the body image.
Oh, right, because body image is how you consciously picture yourself.
Exactly, like looking in a mirror. But the body schema is pre-reflective. It's this silent, constantly updating map of our posture, our spatial boundaries, and our motor capacities. Like you can close your eyes right now and touch your nose flawlessly.
Because the body already knows its own coordinates. It doesn't need to consciously calculate anything.
Precisely. And Kriger connects this schema to the concept of the I can.
The I can.
Yeah. Our primary relationship to reality isn't intellectual observation. It's not I think. It's actually oriented entirely around what the body can do. When you look at a set of stairs, you don't perceive a geometric structure of specific angles and materials.
Right, your body just instantly perceives them as climbable.
Exactly. A coffee cup is graspable. The environment is mapped purely in terms of our physical capacities.
That makes so much sense, and it totally explains Krieger's observation about maximum grip.
Oh, the art museum example.
Yeah. If you go to an art museum and look at a large impressionist painting, standing 3 inches away just gives you meaningless, blurry blotches of paint. But standing 50 feet away reduces it to a postage stamp. And without even intellectualizing it, your sheet will automatically shuffle you forward and backward until you hit the precise distance where the image just snaps into optimal focus. Your body constantly seeks an equilibrium with the environment.
It's a localized intelligence, operating entirely beneath conscious thought. The body is constantly negotiating fiction, lighting, and spatial relations just to maintain that maximum grip on its surroundings.
I do want to push back on the timeline of this process a bit, though.
Sure, go ahead.
Because it seems like cognitive load clearly precedes motor automaticity. Think about learning to drive a manual transmission or, learning to touch type.
Oh, yeah.
When you first sit at a piano or a keyboard, your mind is intensely micromanaging every single finger movement. The I think definitely comes before the I can in skill acquisition, doesn't it?
Well, yes. Initial skill acquisition absolutely requires conscious, directed attention. But Krieger's analysis of habit actually flips the script on what happens next.
Oh, so?
Neuroscientifically, we see a shift from the prefrontal cortex, which handles active problem solving, to the basal ganglia, which manages automated motor patterns.
Yeah.
But philosophically, Krieger argues that habit isn't just a mechanical reflex being grooved into the brain.
Okay, what is it then?
Habit is knowledge migrating out of the intellect and literally settling into the flesh.
Oh, wow. The knowledge relocates.
Exactly.
That's why if you've been typing for years and someone asks you to name the exact spatial coordinates of the letter K on a keyboard without looking, your conscious mind will probably freeze. You literally can't tell them.
Right. But if they ask you to type the word kangaroo,
your finger strikes the K instantly. The intellect forgot, but the hand remembers.
Furthermore, reintroducing conscious thought actually degrades the acquired schema. Sports psychologists call it the centipede effect.
Oh, right. When a centipede starts analyzing which leg to move next, it just trips over itself.
Exactly. If a professional baseball player consciously thinks about the mechanics of their swing while the pitch is in the air, they will strike out every time. The wisdom of the body requires the thinking mind to get out of the way so the flesh can operate at its native speed.
Which brings up one of the most compelling sections of Krieger's book, where he applies this to modern case studies involving tool incorporation. Because the body schema, this plastic living map, isn't strictly bounded by human skin, is it?
Not at all. It dynamically expands to annex inanimate objects. A blind man using a cane doesn't feel the leather grip of the cane against his palm. The cane effectively becomes an organ of perception.
Right, the sensory boundary of his body actually extends to the tip of the cane sweeping the sidewalk.
The plasticity of the schema is profound. Krieger uses laparoscopic surgeons as a prime modern example of this.
Oh, this part blew my mind.
Yeah, these surgeons perform incredibly delicate maneuvers inside a patient's abdomen while staring at a flat monitor, and they're manipulating tissue through several feet of rigid steel instruments.
Right.
Yet, experienced surgeons report that they don't feel themselves moving handles outside the body. They actually feel the density and resistance of the tissue at the very tip of the steel. The nervous system has integrated the steel shaft into the body schema.
It's the exact same biological mechanism at play when you drive a car through a narrow alleyway. You don't consciously calculate the width of the vehicle. You physically feel the fenders of the car as if they are an extension of your own hips.
Yes. You wince if another car gets too close to your bumper because your schema has literally absorbed the spatial dimensions of the chassis.
But Krieger also points out the dark side of this plasticity, right? If the schema can hold on to a piece of steel, it can also hold on to a limb that has been physically amputated, the phantom limb phenomenon.
Right. Medicine struggled with phantom limb pain for decades, primarily because the Cartesian model dictated the treatment.
The whole ghost in the machine logic.
Exactly. The logic was, well, if the physical tissue of the arm is gone, the pain must be a psychiatric delusion, or maybe a severed nerve ending misfiring at the stump. But Kriger cites neurologist V.S. Ramachandran's mirror box therapy to demonstrate that the body schema has its own independent reality.
Ramachandran's intervention is brilliant because it treats the schema rather than the stump. For listeners unfamiliar with this, the therapy basically involves placing the patient's intact arm beside a mirror, and it's positioned so the reflection perfectly overlaps the empty space where the missing limb used to be.
Right. And when the patient moves their intact hand, the visual cortex sees what appears to be the missing hand unclenching and moving normally. And incredibly, the debilitating phantom pain often just vanishes.
But wait, if a simple mirror box can cure phantom pain just by tricking the eyes, doesn't that mean the body's map is almost, I don't know, gullible?
That's a common reaction, but Kriger reframes this. It's not gullibility, it's profound plasticity. The body is an open system defined by its world.
Okay.
The mechanism here is a resolution of cognitive dissonance within the sensory motor loop. The motor cortex is sending commands to the missing hand, but it's receiving zero proprioceptive feedback in return.
So that broken loop creates a massive prediction error.
Exactly, which the brain interprets as agonizing pain. You cannot resolve that error with logic. Telling the patient their arm is gone does absolutely nothing. The mirror provides synthetic visual feedback that satisfies the brain's predictive model. It speaks the body's native language of perception and movement, which allows the schema to finally update itself.
Okay, so if the schema is so dynamic that it can seamlessly integrate a surgical tool or be completely reconfigured by a mirror, we have to look at what happens when it encounters the most important things in our environment, other bodies.
Yes. Kriger dedicates a significant portion of his book to intercorporeality, which is the phenomenological coupling between subjects.
Intercorporeality. That dismantles the idea that we are just isolated minds locked inside private skulls, forced to guess at what other people are feeling.
Yeah, completely. Our primary bond with others is bodily resonance. Kriger relies on this classic developmental observation of neonatal imitation to prove this.
Oh, the baby example.
Yeah, if you hold a newborn baby, an infant only days old, and stick your tongue out, the baby will often stick its tongue out in response.
The biological complexity of that is absolutely staggering. I mean, a newborn has never seen its own face in a mirror. It possesses no conceptual understanding of what a tum even is or that it has facial muscles.
Not at all.
Yet it translates a visual pattern on your face flawlessly into a motor command in its own unseen musculature.
It happens because beneath our complex, acquired social reasoning, human flesh innately recognizes other flesh. We are wired for a shared spatial attunement. This is the physiological basis of empathy.
Wow.
Empathy is not a moral abstraction.
Yeah.
It's not a cognitive deduction where we think, oh, that person appears to be in pain. I should feel bad for them. It is a bodily fact we undergo.
Like contagious yawning or, the visceral flinch you experience when you see a skateboarder violently break their ankle on a video. You physically recoil, your mirror neurons are firing, your body is echoing a somatic state that isn't biologically yours. But if empathy and connection are rooted in this natural bodily resonance, why are we all so exhausted by video calls? I mean, bringing up Kriger's case study on modern tech, we can see and hear each other perfectly well on Zoom, so why the fatigue?
Kriger's analysis of Zoom fatigue is perhaps his most immediately relatable application of Merleau-Ponty's work. We assume that because we can see a face and hear a voice in high definition, communication is happening perfectly. But video calls relentlessly subtract the intercorporeal foundation.
Missing body.
Exactly. The physical micro-delays alone disrupt our rhythm, but there is also a complete failure of the gaze. Because of where webcams are positioned, true mutual eye contact is technologically impossible.
Right, you're looking at their eyes on the screen, but the camera is inches higher, so to them, you are perpetually looking slightly downward.
And your nervous system is running massive background processes, trying to establish that shared spatial attunement. It's seeking the mutual gaze, scanning for peripheral body language, trying to predict breathing patterns to time conversational turn-taking.
But on a flat screen, the data is artificially flattened, out of sync, or just completely missing.
Yes. The body is constantly predicting a physical resonance that the technology literally blocks. We log off feeling drained because our physiological hardware has been redlining for an hour, trying to complete a circuit that remains permanently open.
The fatigue isn't just screen strain. It is the exhaustive effort of trying to exist without a shared physical space.
Precisely.
We've traced how the lived body connects outward to tools, to physical environments, to other people. But Krieger brings this all back to a really fundamental question. What happens when the body attempts to connect with itself?
To understand this, Kriger highlights Merleau-Ponty's ultimate thought experiment, which demonstrates the dual nature of our existence. You can actually try this right now.
Okay, I love a practical experiment. What do I do?
Simply lay your right hand over your left hand and press down gently.
Okay, doing it. So right now, the left hand acts as the object. It's just passively receiving the sensation of being touched by the right hand.
Right. But by shifting your attention, you can flip the dynamic.
Oh, yeah.
You can make the left hand the active subject doing the feeling, while the right hand becomes the passive object being felt. You are simultaneously the perceiver and the perceived.
I can literally oscillate between the two states, flipping back and forth between which hand is doing the touching and which is being touched.
But there is a strict limitation.
Yeah.
You can never achieve both states perfectly simultaneously. There is always a microsecond of slippage. As the left hand becomes the active toucher, its sensation of being a passive object recedes.
That is wild.
That irreducible slippage is what Merleau-Ponty called the écart, or the gap. Even within the boundary of your own nervous system, you cannot perfectly, seamlessly coincide with yourself. There is a foundational divergence in the human condition.
And Krieger gives the perfect everyday illustration of this gap, tickling.
Yes.
Is this gap the reason you can't tickle yourself?
Exactly. The mechanism of tickling entirely relies on the brain's inability to predict the exact timing and nature of a sensory input.
Yeah.
It requires surprise and a degree of passivity.
Okay.
Because you can never fully be both the active agent generating the touch and the passive patient receiving it at the exact same moment, you cannot surprise your own sensory cortex.
The brain's predictive models just cancel out the sensation entirely, so the fact that you cannot tickle yourself is literally anatomical proof of the écart.
Total coincidence destroys the experience. If there were no gap between intention and sensation, if we perfectly overlapped with ourselves, there would be absolute stasis.
Wow.
Krieger argues that this écart, this fundamental unclosable gap, is not a biological flaw. It is the generative space that makes experience, creativity, and love possible. If we perfectly coincided with the world or fully possessed our loved ones without any distance or mystery, there would be no room for discovery. The gap is the engine of human meaning.
It completely reframes how we view our own biology. Krieger's work serves as such a powerful corrective. We aren't just ghost-like intellects haunting biological machinery. We are the world's flesh curled back upon itself, possessing a profound, pre-reflective intelligence that allows us to seamlessly map tools into our nervous systems, echo the pain of strangers, and navigate the dark purely through the wisdom of the flesh.
And if we carry Krieger's synthesis to its logical modern conclusion, it poses a pretty formidable challenge to the tech industry, specifically regarding artificial intelligence.
Oh, this is fascinating because AI hit a wall specifically because it lacked a body, right?
Exactly. We've seen AI systems struggle with common sense reasoning and spatial navigation precisely because they lack bodies. If the gap, the écart, if physical vulnerability, the necessity of biological habit, and intercorporeal resonance are the actual engines of meaning and empathy,
then is it even possible to create true artificial general intelligence in a cloud server?
that is the ultimate question. Until an AI possesses a vulnerable physical structure, until it can feel the drag of gravity, suffer the cognitive friction of a Zoom call, instinctively flinch at another's physical injury, and find itself fundamentally unable to tickle its own chassis, it might forever just be a highly sophisticated mimic of thought.
Because it lacks the foundational baseline of the lived body.
Yes, it cannot possess genuine understanding.
You can't compute a flinch. You have to actually live it. The territory has to be walked.
Exactly right.
What an incredible place to leave it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Boris Krieger's work.
It was my pleasure.
As you go about the rest of your day today, reaching for a door handle, stepping off a curb, or seamlessly typing an email, take a moment to notice that quiet intelligence running beneath your conscious thoughts. Your body is navigating a world it inherently understands.